UFC 323 just wrapped up, and in this video, I'm going to be recapping the entire card, man. And listen, we got to clap it up for Petr Yan, man. We got to clap it up for the technical wizard, and I'm going to say this. I've been saying it. I believe that Petr Yan is one of the best and most skilled mixed martial artists ever, man. Ever. In all of my years of watching the sport, I don't know if I've seen a more impressive performance than what Petr Yan just displayed over the course of 25 minutes. Given the challenge that he was up against, man, Merab Dvalisvili is an absolute animal, man. An absolute animal. A relentless just guy that just keeps moving forward, and it's just a tornado of chaos. And Petr Yan goes out there and figures out the puzzle of Merab Dvalisvili to win back his bantamweight title. This is one of those cases where I am incredibly happy that I got my pick wrong. Petr Yan, one of my favorite fighters, and I was doubting him in this fight, man, because it just felt like Merab Dvalisvili was a kryptonite, horrific stylistic matchup for him. And for Petr Yan to go out there and beat Merab like that from pillar to post in dominant fashion, absolutely incredible stuff from Petr Yan. So we got a lot to discuss in this video because, guys, this card was amazing. This card was absolutely amazing, right? The prelims, fireworks. Main card, little froggy, right? We had a roller coaster of emotions going on, so we'll discuss that in this video. And by the way, I'm going to drop another video soon, but the UFC, they are in their absolute bag right now, right? This was the final numbered event of the ESPN era, and look, it is very clear to me that the UFC has a new motivation and newfound energy with this Paramount deal kicking in, man. The cards, the fights that they're announcing and dropping, obviously we got some suspect matchmaking for sure, but they have just been announcing banger after banger, announcements at, the pop-up, seasonal presser on the broadcast. It just really feels like the UFC is back in a very energizing way. This was a great numbered event to end the ESPN era for the most part. Prelims were absolutely amazing, man. Cannot wait to talk about all of these fights. Let's waste no time, man. We got a lot to discuss and hop right into the main event, Merab Dvalisvili versus Petr Yan. Now, I first want to mention this. Merab Dvalisvili, being as active as he is absolutely incredible. Merab Dvalisvili, all credit to him, man. This guy is an absolute savage. I've called him the greatest bantamweight of all time, and what he has been able to accomplish is absolutely incredible. Merab will be back, man. Right, that was 4 title defenses looking to go for his 4th title defense of the year. 4 title fights of the year. Absolutely incredible, man. Absolutely incredible. But at the end of the day, he got absolutely beaten around from pillar to post in this fight by Petr Yan. It was one of the most just technically sound performances I have seen in a rematch of all time, man. Like, given the challenge that Merab brings to the table, for Yan to do what he did, it's just unbelievably impressive. Right, maybe a stretch for me to say one of the greatest performances that I've ever seen, but I don't think so, actually. Right? Maybe not the greatest, but definitely one of them. Given what Merab brings to the table, how we view Merab Dvalisvili, this just animal that just does not stop moving forward. The cardio, the relentless pace, the improved striking, the improved submission game to a degree that we saw against Sean in the rematch. Almost knocking out Corey Sandhagen. Going toe-to-toe and outscoring Umar Nurmagomedov. Right, who a lot of people felt like was his kryptonite. And I thought that was Merab's kryptonite, was Umar Nurmagomedov. Turns out the kryptonite for Merab Dvalisvili is a healthy, dialed-in, ready-to-go Petr Yan. That was the best version of Petr Yan that we have ever seen, which is absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Right, and there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, this is vintage Yan, which you're not wrong. Like, it's definitely vintage Yan, but I think that this is even a better version of vintage Yan. That guy that showed up in the octagon last night, that was the best bantamweight that we have ever seen skill for skill. That was unbelievable what Yan just did, man. Absolutely unbelievable, right? When we see rematches, right, you see a guy maybe go out there, knock someone out early, get a submission, have a close decision, but to get 50-45 in the first fight, make the necessary adjustments, come into this rematch healthy and motivated, riding a nice 3-fight win streak, and then you come into this and you beat the GOAT bantamweight Merab, who is an absolute nightmare for everybody, who nobody seems to have the answer for. People can get close, but at the end of the day, Merab is just running through guys. And you go out there and absolutely beat the brakes off of him, man. And I know that the striking numbers look good for Merab because he had the output going. And by the way, Merab was standing toe-to-toe in there, man. Like, even though, Yan, I thought, dominated the fight and clearly won, shout out to Merab, man, because he was standing in there and the ground game wasn't really working, right? And I know Merab was like, I was trying to have an entertaining fight or whatever. I think that's a little bit of cope. I think that he was shocked at how good the takedown defense was of Petr Yan in this fight. I'm shocked. Or I think that Merab was shocked. And I'm shocked how good overall Petr Yan performed in this fight, man. Because what we know that Merab brings to the table is the relentless onslaught, the level changes. It's just the idea of the takedowns. Then he feints the level changes, opens up the striking. We've seen him start to attack and get more aggressive with the submissions, with the striking on the feet to press for those finishing opportunities. And he just got absolutely picked apart by Petr Yan. The jab was money, the kicks to the body. And in my video where I was saying, listen, I'm worried for Petr Yan in this fight, we broke down a game plan of how I thought Petr Yan was going to attack Merab Dvalisvili. I got to pat myself on the back a little bit, man, because everything that Yan did is pretty much what we discussed in the video. He went back, watched the first fight, the different adjustments, what O'Malley was doing to the body of Merab Dvalisvili, attack the body. That's what Merab invested in. Those nasty kicks to the body when he would go southpaw, throwing the boxing combinations to the body. This was literally a flawless, sensational performance by Petr Yan. That guy that showed up in the octagon last night, it was the greatest bantamweight of all time. Now, I'm not saying that, the resume, even though Jan's resume is amazing, I'm not saying that necessarily he's the GOAT bantamweight, but skill-wise, if he could go out there and defend the belt against, some of the challenges that are going to be waiting, for him in this division, which we're going to discuss in a second. I mean, Petr Yan, man, like literally, I commented on a video somewhere and I got a bunch of engagement on social media. I said, listen, everybody loves Petr Yan. Nobody dislikes Petr Yan. And if you dislike Yan, something is wrong with you. How can you dislike Yan? Just an absolute savage, learning some English, dropping some one-liners out there, smooth boxing, technical wizard on the feet, just a true treat to watch, man. There is no fighter that I really enjoy watching than Petr Yan when he's at his best. I mean, he's unbelievable. What else is there to say? He's unbelievable, man. He's absolutely unbelievable. I've always been saying that he's one of the most skilled fighters that we've ever seen, and for him to go out there and do what he did to Merab in the rematch is just incredibly impressive. And it's not like, Yan squeaked out a decision here, or, this was a robbery. This was domination. Pillar to post, even though Merab was hanging in there, right, bringing the fight to him as well, not backing down, getting cracked to the body, hurt to the body, right, which Daniel Cormier pointed it out on the broadcast. I know that those are nasty body shots, but we saw O'Malley landing those front kicks as well. Merab's reaction to getting hit to the body is horrible. You could damn near lose a round off that reacting the way that he does, man. And Merab was in this fight throwing, continuously coming after Petr Yan, but at the end of the day, Petr Yan was just on another level last night, man. He was on another level, and for him to make the adjustments in camp and come into this fight and not only just tag up Merab Dvalisvili on the feet with the jab, bringing the right hand behind it, the kicks to the body, the leg kicks, he out-grappled Merab Dvalisvili in several moments of this fight. He was even taking down Merab. He was reversing position, stuffing the takedowns. Even if he was getting taken down, popping right back to his feet, landing good shots in the clinch. Petr Yan literally put on an MMA masterclass last night, man. And outside of, I guess you could say, the submission threat, Petr Yan is everything. He's complete. Very sound defense, excellent high guard, catching and shooting, right? Taking shots on the guard, countering, probing with the lead hand, switching stances, beautiful Muay Thai, spinning techniques, excellent boxing, solid wrestling. He's just such a treat to watch, man. Such a treat to watch. I am so happy that Petr Yan was able to get his belt back, man, because like I said, this is one of my favorite fighters of all time, and I just felt like Merab was that annoying pest of a matchup stylistically. Right? Merab's style, I said, it's got to be one of the most annoying styles to ever prepare for. It's a pest of a style. Miserable to deal with, knowing that a guy has the ability to shoot 50 takedowns without getting tired and can, has improved his striking, is hunting for finishes, is going out there with a ton of confidence and is defending his belt, trying to defend his belt for a fourth time and being super active and all that stuff, which is incredible by Merab. I love when we get active champs like this because it's not something that we're seeing a ton anymore, right? I appreciate what Merab Dvalisvili brings to the sport, man. He's an absolute savage. He didn't back down last night, but at the end of the day, the night belongs to Petr Yan, man. Going out there and doing that in a rematch is unbelievably impressive. And how crazy is that, man? For the first fight, Merab 50-45 Yan, dominant win. And then now you run the rematch back and Petr Yan basically dominates Merab Dvalisvili. I had this, I think, 49-46. I think I only gave like a round to Merab. Because for the most part, this was Petr Yan. It was the damage of Petr Yan, man. He was battering up Merab Dvalisvili, busting him up, man. That jab, and, that's one thing I've if I had to make one critique for Petr Yan with his striking, he doesn't always get the lead hand super busy in terms of the jab, right? But in this fight, we saw the vintage jab of Petr Yan come back. It was on display, man. Merab Dvalisvili does not move his head. It was a Pez dispenser last night. Boom, boom, just getting tagged up. And then Petr Yan's offense, especially with the boxing, just starts to open up once he gets into a rhythm. And what told me that Petr Yan was going to win this fight was the fact that he won the first round. The fact that Petr Yan won the first round was crazy, right? Because wasn't there some stat going around where Yan hasn't won a first round in, God knows how long? And for him to go out there, he was motivated. He was aggressive early. Petr Yan had Merab on the back foot and was outpacing Merab Dvalisvili. He literally out-cardioed Merab, out-grappled Merab in moments in the fight, because we saw Merab have some success as well, and was landing the more damaging shots and putting a boxing clinic on display and a Muay Thai display as well. Those kicks to the body were ferocious, man. Petr Yan, absolute savage, what he was able to do. That's how highly I've thought of Merab, man. I really look at Merab as the bantamweight GOAT, and for Petr Yan to go out there and do that and beat him so convincingly like that in a rematch where you got dominated the first time around, it's just unbelievably impressive, man. And like I said, this is one of those cases where I am happy that I got my pick wrong. I told you guys I was rooting for Petr Yan, and to see him go out there and do what I just didn't think he was going to be able to do is absolutely sensational. Now, Merab should have never been a crazy big favorite over Petr Yan because you can never count out Petr Yan. But I just felt like it's one of those things where styles make fights, man. And Merab Dvalisvili has got a super difficult style for a guy like Yan to deal with, who wants everything to kind of be technical and on time and, in the pocket and all those kinds of things. The adjustments that Yan made were perfect. He went right after Merab. Didn't have any respect for his ground game in this fight. Didn't really have any respect for his striking because Merab was landing some decent shots at moments, right? But Petr Yan's just a different kind of cat, man. The guy that showed up last night was the greatest skill-for-skill bantamweight of all time. Without question, and literally one of the most complete and skilled fighters ever. Just sensational stuff from Petr Yan, man. Sensational stuff. And, the bantamweight division's in a very interesting place now because the interesting thing is the UFC going to run this back. Because in my opinion, I believe that Merab has absolutely earned the opportunity to have the trilogy. He absolutely has earned the ability, to go for a rematch here against Petr Yan. If he wants it, which I think he does, 100%. He said he wants it. And I believe that he has absolutely earned that opportunity, 1,000%. Merab Dvalisvili being as active as he was, going on that crazy win streak, right, to get to the belt in the first place, defending against Sean O'Malley, or winning it against O'Malley, defending against O'Malley, defending against Umar, defending against Sandhagen, right, and the fact that he did 50-45 Yan the first time, right, and I know that Yan beat him up really good in this fight, and it was a dominant win for Petr Yan. Still, when you're doing what Merab has done, and you have the resume that he's had, and, being active and stepping in and, fighting anybody, I feel like that's got to be worth something, man. So at the end of the day, Merab Dvalisvili, he showed up to fight, man. And like I said before, Merab, a guy that was kind of criticized for being boring and this and that, he's kind of jazzed up the personality, even though I think it's kind of cringe and annoying. He's jazzed it up on social media, trying to market himself a little bit better, right? And his past several fights have been super entertaining, man. That Umar fight was one of the greatest bantamweight fights of all time. Unbelievably competitive. Right, and then submitting O'Malley, right, going out there finishing somebody. Right now I was criticizing Merab, saying this guy doesn't finish anybody. Finishes Sean O'Malley, damn near knocks out Corey Sandhagen and beats Corey. And now he goes out there against Petr Yan and gets beaten from pillar to post. I think Merab has 100% earned the rematch. Now, do I think that the UFC is going to look to go that route right away? I don't think so. Right? Unless Dana said in his post-fight presser, which I haven't watched at the time of recording this video, but dude, the way that the UFC is kind of rolling into this whole Paramount thing, we got Sean O'Malley fighting Song Yadong, which is a striker's delight matchup, basically, right? And if O'Malley could go out there and get a KO or an impressive win, you mean to tell me that the UFC, under the new Paramount deal, is not going to try to book Petr Yan versus Sean O'Malley too? A 5-rounder for the belt? The UFC, 1,000%, in my opinion, that is the fight that they will look to target. And if Sean O'Malley can't get it done, or even if he does, you got Umar Nurmagomedov fighting on UFC 324 as well as O'Malley against Deiveson Figueiredo. And if Umar Nurmagomedov beats Deiveson Figueiredo dominantly like I think he will, especially if he finishes him, Umar now has earned an opportunity at the title again, right? And he hasn't fought Petr Yan, and I mean, that would feed generations, man. Petr Yan versus O'Malley in a 5-round fight, amazing fight. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Petr Yan in a 5-rounder, that feeds families, man. That feeds generations, dog. Literally MMA at the highest level. Two unbelievably well-rounded mixed martial artists. And I know people are going to say, well, Petr Yan beat up on Merab, and Merab beat Umar Nurmagomedov, so Yan would just destroy Umar. Styles make fights, guys, right? That's what we see in mixed martial arts. It's just like 2 + 2 = 5 in MMA, man. I say that all the time. And, you know, even though Merab, when it comes to the freestyle wrestling, he's a pest, and the cardio and all those kinds of things, Umar Nurmagomedov has the control and the submission game on the floor, which is a little bit different than what Merab brings to the table. And I still believe that, Umar is a better striker than Merab. It's one of those things where styles make fights. And you got to remember that Umar did get injured in the Merab fight as well. Right, but at the end of the day, Merab still beat him. It was a competitive fight. Very interesting fights ahead for Petr Yan, man. But listen, I think Merab has 100% earned the opportunity to get right back in there with Petr Yan, run the trilogy. And I think that it would be very intriguing because a lot of people, they'd probably be picking Petr Yan in the trilogy. And Merab would be getting slept on, even though Merab 50-45 in the first time and was on a crazy win streak. So I think the trilogy would actually be very intriguing. But I'm saying from a business standpoint, I don't know that the UFC goes that direction, man. Because as active as Merab was, as entertaining as Merab started to be, especially on the mic, I feel like Merab Dvalisvili, one of the big things as well, he stopped drinking water, man, started drinking that Kool-Aid. I think his head was getting big, man. Right, obviously, drinking water still. I'm joking, man. You know what I'm saying? But I just felt like Merab was buying into the hype a little bit, man. Everyone's telling you how great you are, the bantamweight GOAT. I thought he would press the grappling a little bit earlier, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't have mattered, man. Petr Yan literally had all of the answers, and when it looked like Yan was slowing down a little bit, he would just put his foot back on the gas, start tagging Merab up on the feet. I'm in awe of what I just saw, man, dropping some bars, man. That's my line for this, man. I am so happy I'm cheesing, dog. I'm happy for Petr Yan, man. One of my favorite fighters of all time, and I thought that Merab was his kryptonite. I really did. And for him to go out there and solve it, it's just sensational, man. Sensational. So like I said, I think the trilogy, and based on merit, which is kind of going out the window these days, especially, with the Paramount deal and the business angle, which, by the way, even though I think Merab should get it, am I complaining if Umar beats Deiveson Figueiredo that he gets a title shot, or if O'Malley beats Song? I mean, I would be complaining more about O'Malley because he lost to Merab twice. But again, that's still Merab, the GOAT bantamweight. Right? So if O'Malley could get a starching KO, but if Umar could go out there and have a nice win, that would be a win over Mario Bautista, who was on a crazy win streak, and then Deiveson Figueiredo. Like, Umar versus Yan is an unbelievable fight, man. Unbelievable fight. MMA at the highest level. I'd be nerding out over that fight, man. And then, Yan versus O'Malley in a rematch where a lot of people, including me, thought that was a robbery. I thought Yan beat O'Malley in that fight. A 5-rounder striker's delight. Just sign me up. Man, the bantamweight division, whenever we get a changing of the guard with the champion, it just creates a ton of opportunities. I'm going to be very curious to see if the UFC does run the trilogy. Because like I said, I think Merab has 1,000% earned that, and I think that he should get the trilogy. But given where the UFC has been with some of the suspect matchmaking and kind of just going off popularity and style matchups and all that kind of stuff, I would not be shocked if the UFC sits back, sees what happens at 324, and doesn't give, or I think that they'll give O'Malley a rematch, or they will put Umar Nurmagomedov in there against Petr Yan for a fresh matchup. And those are all amazing fights, man. The bantamweight division, it's been one of the best divisions in the UFC, and Petr Yan getting his belt back, it just feels good, man. Feels very, very good. And I'm telling you, that guy that was in there last night, Petr Yan beats any bantamweight that we have ever seen, and any guy I think currently in the division. I still feel like Umar Nurmagomedov and Merab are his most difficult fights. And stylistically, I do think that Sean O'Malley is still a hard fight for Yan, because we saw O'Malley having a lot of striking success against Yan, which is just crazy because of how good Yan is. So I'm happy with all the fights, but I'm saying that I believe that Merab is 1,000%. Whether you like Merab or not, he has absolutely earned the right to a trilogy. He has, man. He absolutely has, and sign me up to a degree, because, those other fights are very intriguing, but this was a great fight, man. Even though Petr Yan clearly won this fight, and I thought it was pretty dominant, it was a great fight. We had great back and forths. Merab was moving forward. He was getting tagged to the body, and he kept doing his thing, man. Kept moving forward, didn't quit in there, didn't melt, didn't fold, kept moving forward and throwing down, man. So respect to both guys, man. It was an amazing fight. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm just really happy for Petr Yan. And I think Merab bounces back, right? Depending on the matchups, right? Given what we just saw from Petr Yan, I think he figured out Merab. I think he figured him out. So I don't know that Merab, like I said, people are going to now be sleeping on Merab in the trilogy if they run it, but I think that Petr Yan would beat him in the trilogy. I think Yan has cracked the code. Stylistically, Yan, I think, has made the necessary adjustments. He's healthy, and to me, seems like he's figured out Merab's game. And I know people are going to say, well, Merab's been really active. It kind of caught up to him, and maybe, but I'm not taking anything away from Petr Yan. I can't stand when people do that. They take things away from fighters. At the end of the day, Petr Yan last night, as I've said time and time again, one of the most complete and elite skilled fighters that we have ever seen in the history of the sport. Love me some Petr Yan, man. Like I said, I think Merab should get the trilogy. But given what we're seeing, I think the UFC goes the business route and we get a Sean O'Malley rematch or Umar Nurmagomedov. And by the way, Umar would have earned a title shot off of that. I'm not saying they don't earn it. I'm just saying Merab, given what he's done, I think that he has earned the opportunity to get right back in there to try to get some get back, man. Amazing fight, amazing performance by Yan. Happy my dog Yan got the belt back, man. Respect to both guys. It was an amazing fight. Really enjoyed it. Co-main event. Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. I want to mention this first, man. I'm happy for Joshua Van, right? These are two of my favorite guys in the weight class, and I'm a big fan of both guys. They're two guys I don't pick against, man. And I'm happy that Joshua Van is able to go out there and realize his dream, become, I think, the second youngest, champion, because remember John Jones back in the day, which I don't think that record will ever be broken, but Joshua Van kind of close. Right, in terms of the age, kid's 24 years of age, and he's out there winning a world title. I'm happy for Joshua Van. Not his fault, man. He's in there fighting, doing his thing, winning the belt. I thought, I was a little frustrated with the way he was celebrating, acting like he KO'd Pantoja or something. But at the end of the day, when you're in there, you're 24 years of age, and you go out there and you win UFC gold, it's going to change your life, man. Financially, the fame that comes with it, the sponsorships, all those different things, it's life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. So happy for Joshua Van that he was able to win the belt, man. But I am absolutely gutted for Alexandre Pantoja. Gutted for him, man. I met Pantoja at UFC 319, man, and I'm telling you, out of all the professional athletes that I have met in my life, regardless of the sport, there's nobody cooler and nicer than Alexandre Pantoja. Nobody. This is just world-class person, man. World-class person. You see his interviews, how humble and graceful he is, whether he wins or loses. I love both of these guys, man, but I absolutely love me Alexandre Pantoja. I think he's the greatest flyweight of all time. I've been saying that. And I thought that him beating Joshua Van would cement that. And now going out there, coming out like a bat out of hell, putting, the work on Joshua Van early, like getting in his face, not showing any respect for the young gun in Joshua Van, getting right after him, throwing big, powerful Pantoja shots. Throws the head kick upstairs, right? Van kind of blocks, ducks into it. Pantoja's off balance, goes to catch himself, sticks the arm out, and boom. Thing just, snaps, pops, whatever happened, man. And then the UFC kept showing the dang replay. I'm like, stop showing the replay, man, right? It was gruesome. It was horrific, honestly, man. Pantoja's such a good man. Such a good guy, man. You just don't want to see stuff like that. We don't want a fight to end like this. And the fact that it ends and counts as a TKO is just, it's nuts, man. It's nuts because, it is a win. It's a fight. Something happened and Van blocked and Pantoja falls. I get it. Tries to catch himself and post and boom, there goes the arm. It just sucks for a fight to end that way, obviously, man. And I'm gutted for Pantoja, man, because this guy's, 35, 36, right? He's in the lighter weight classes. He's a guy that's been on a crazy tear, right? And the reign, basically, I'm not going to say it's over because, this is, an unfortunate set of circumstances here, but when you're a little bit older and you suffer depending on the severity of the injury and you get a little bit older, man, your body tends to deal with injuries quite a bit different than when you were just a 20-some-year-old guy, man. So I'm concerned moving forward for Pantoja, but Pantoja will always be Pantoja, man. This guy is always in a dogfight. He brings it every single time, and so does Joshua Van. I could not wait for this fight, man, and for it to end like that. I'm just gutted, man. I'm gutted because I know Joshua Van doesn't want to win the belt that way. I know he doesn't. Even though, like I said, it changes your life, man. I completely understand all that. It's just an unfortunate ending, man. And the way that the fight was going, dude, it looked like we were in for an absolute scrap, dude. It looked like we were in for a crazy throwdown, man. I could not wait for this fight. It looked like we were going to be in for a classic, man. The way that Pantoja was going right after Van with basically no respect for his skills, which is just how Pantoja fights, but he was extra aggressive, man. Ultra aggressive. Love me some Alexandre Pantoja, man. And I love Joshua Van as well. I'm happy for him. And I would, depending on what's happened to Pantoja and what the recovery timeline is going to be, Pantoja, no matter what, when he comes back, it will be for the title. It has to be. It has to be, man. Pantoja 1,000% has earned that. Obviously, I think he's the GOAT flyweight. He's been on a crazy win streak, doing what he's been doing. The resume that he has, it's unbelievable, man. He will walk back into a title fight, rightfully so, whenever he comes back. But, we're about to talk about Tatsuro Taira in a second, but it's just set up a big fight as well, probably in the meantime, while Pantoja recovers, while he heals, and, depending on the severity of the injury, doesn't seem like Taira and Van took any damage at all, right? So I feel like the UFC pretty early in 2026 is going to look to run Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira in the meantime. Maybe they don't. Maybe they kind of ice Van, wait for Pantoja to come back and do that. But I feel like the UFC is probably going to look to move ahead, given that I don't know how long Pantoja is going to be out for. I could very much see them doing Van versus Taira, and then Pantoja will come back and walk right in to fight the winner, man. So Pantoja's 1,000% earned that, and I'm glad that Pantoja's gotten the respect that he deserves, man. For a while, he's always been underrated, right? I've been a big fan of Pantoja, singing his praises, just crying about how this guy's so underrated and how people are not giving him his respect. I feel like Pantoja is finally getting the love that he deserves, man. And so does Joshua Van. Joshua Van's a savage, man. Absolute stud. Goes out there at the end of the day. It is a win, but, it's dampened, man. And I feel like it's just crazy that a belt can be turned over like that. You know what I'm saying? So I would love to see it get ran back right away, but that looked pretty brutal. So I have to get an update down the line here soon from Pantoja to see the severity. And, I feel like in the meantime, given that they really doesn't look like either guy is injured, they're going to probably go Van versus Taira, because that's a big fight, man. Two young guys, Taira's like 25, Van's like 24, right? Kind of the new gen of the division. Man, that's a great fight, man. Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira, but I am gutted for Pantoja, man, because it was looking like a Pantoja fight. Brawling, getting in his face. Felt like, setting up the high kick, getting after Van on the feet, and it felt like we were going to see a level change soon from Pantoja. And he was tagging Van with some good shots on the feet, and Van was standing in there trying to get his boxing going. It just felt like we were in for a classic, man. It felt like we were in for an absolute war. And then for it to end like that, man, I am absolutely gutted. I'm gutted for Pantoja, man. Such a good dude, such a cool guy, works his ass off, right? And to go out there and have that happen, it's the fight game, man. Crazy things happen. So I was really looking forward to this fight. Again, happy for Van for him to realize his dream. It just sucks the way that this went down, man. Gutted for my guy, Alexandre Pantoja, man. The GOAT flyweight, he'll walk back into a title shot. At least he should, man. I think the UFC will do right by him because he's an absolute savage. And every Pantoja fight's crazy and super entertaining, man. And what he's done, I think he's the GOAT flyweight, right? It's him and Mighty Mouse. I think he walks right back into a title shot. But I feel like the UFC, given whatever the timeline is for Pantoja's return, I feel like we're going to get Van versus Taira in the meantime, which is a crazy fight as well. So wishing Pantoja a speedy recovery, heal up, champ. And can't wait to see him back in there, man. Love me some Pantoja, man. That was a hard watch, man. And again, happy for Van to realize his dream and at 24 years of age, do what he's done. Absolutely incredible, man. Massive fan of both of these guys. It just sucks that it goes down like that. Hopefully we get that rematch in the near future. Brandon Moreno, Tatsuro Taira. So like I was just saying, that sets up probably Taira versus Van in the meantime, which is an amazing fight, by the way. I mean, that's an amazing fight. Two young guys, super skilled, different skill sets. That's an amazing style clash, man. But what we saw from Tatsuro Taira last night was unbelievably impressive. And, I thought Brandon Moreno was going to be a little bit too much for him, right? Because what we saw from Taira throughout his career, I've been picking Taira in every fight up until this one, right? Which is a mistake, obviously. But Tatsuro Taira, his control on the ground is next level, right? Outside of Alexandre Pantoja on the UFC roster in this weight class right now, I think Tatsuro Taira is probably the best grappler outside of Pantoja overall, man. His control on the floor, and, he took down Moreno. Moreno was obviously hesitant, right, in that boxing heavy stance, low base. He was expecting the level changes from Taira, right? And Brandon, threatened with a triangle right away, was in that position for forever, and it was kind of a weird first round. To where I'm like, does Moreno win that because he was threatening with the submission, but Taira's kind of, peppering with some shots while he's down there, and it felt like Moreno was just kind of holding the position, but again, it was a submission attempt. So a really odd and weird first round to be basically caught in a triangle kind of for, several minutes. It was very weird. Very odd first round, and then for Taira to go out there, shoot on Brandon Moreno, get him down, get to his back, and I thought it was a horrendous stoppage, man. I got to be honest. I thought it was a bad stoppage. It wasn't looking good. I want to be very, very clear. I'm not saying that Brandon Moreno was for sure going to get out of that position, because whenever someone's got your back and you get flattened out and your hands are up by your head, you're not responding, and guys are landing, ground and pound shots, and they're getting those shots around, to the side of your head. Like, it's a bad look, man. It's a bad visual for the ref. It's one of those positions. It's kind of looked at as a helpless position, right? But I felt like a guy like Moreno that's been around the block, man, is an OG, been around for forever, a former champion, all the fights that Moreno's been in, right? You got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I feel like, man, you got to give him every opportunity, and I don't feel like Mark Smith did that. So I did feel like it was a horrendous stoppage. I thought the stoppage was awful, man. I'm just going to be honest. I personally, off of my live reaction, not watching it back, I thought that was a horrible stoppage. I did. Now, I'm not saying that Moreno gets out of that because it wasn't looking good, and I feel like it was heading in the direction of Tatsuro Taira, maybe locking in a rear naked choke, maybe even softening him up with more ground and pound, and Moreno just doesn't respond, and, we go another 20, 30 seconds like that, but, it was a helpless position. So whenever you're in that position, refs they're getting edgy, man. When you're not responding and those shots are landing down, I mean, you're helpless and you're basically getting beaten up on. So I understand to a degree what Mark Smith was looking at, but you got to realize who you're dealing with here. This is Brandon Moreno. This is an OG. This is a guy that I don't think has ever really been finished, right? Super durable, guy that's been around for forever, man. I feel like you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And even regardless, at this level, it's just too soon of a stoppage, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that Moreno bounces back, like, at all. I'm just saying I do think that it was early. I do think that it was early, but we got to give credit to Tatsuro Taira, man. This kid's for real. He's for real. And his striking looked good. He made the right adjustments as well. You saw him throwing those shots up the middle, the uppercuts, the knees, right? Maybe even was going to open up with some front kicks because of Moreno's low boxing-based style. Tatsuro Taira is a damn problem, dude. He is a problem. He's physically strong for the weight class. I mean, look at him in this picture, man. Absolutely ripped, in great shape. Good cardio. That Brandon Royval fight was a learning experience for him. And his striking is getting much better, which is crazy. At 25 years of age, his striking is getting sharper. He's got some nasty sting on the feet, and his ground game is elite, man. It's elite. I feel like we could start calling it elite because when you do that against Brandon Moreno and you survive a submission attempt to Moreno, you take him down, you get to his back, put him in the positions that you were doing and maintaining that control. Wildly impressive to do that against a guy of the level of Brandon Moreno. Unbelievably impressive, man. And Tatsuro Taira's earned a title shot, right? And obviously, if, the main event doesn't go down like that and we have like a clear winner and, that doesn't happen. I mean, I thought Pantoja would have won. We would be getting Tatsuro versus Pantoja, or if Van pulls off the upset. I mean, I think Pantoja has probably earned a rematch, but Tatsuro Taira, he's right in the wing for a title shot. He's earned one, I think. I know he lost to Brandon Royval, but outside of that, he's been flawless, right? And it was a close fight against Royval, right? It was, I think, a split decision, right? I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch that, but I thought that Brandon Royval, definitely won the fight. But either way, it was close regardless, and it was a 5-rounder. And to go out there and do that against Brandon Moreno, former champion, who's on a couple fight win streak, right? Beating up on Urseg, beating up on Amir Albazi, to go out there and do that to Moreno, wildly impressive. Wildly impressive. Horrendous stoppage at the end of the day, but it was definitely heading in a bad direction. I'm not going to act like it was not heading in the wrong direction. I just feel like you got to give guys at this level, especially someone like Moreno who's been around for so long, you just got to give him a little more time, in my opinion, to see if he can work out of that situation. Even though it's kind of a helpless position and it is a horrible visual for the referee, I understand where Mark Smith is coming from to a degree, but you got to let it go a little longer. You got to let it go a little longer. At the end of the day, Tatsuro Taira is a problem, man. He's a problem, and like I said, I think we're going to get Van versus Taira in the meantime while Pantoja recovers, and then Pantoja will come back and fight the winner. And I love that fight. Taira versus Van, I mean, banger, man. Absolute banger. Two young guys. Tatsuro Taira is a complete fighter. Joshua Van's takedown defense is very good, and I feel like we still have those questions about Van, though, right? Because we didn't really get to see it play out against Pantoja, to where I still don't know about his ground game. We've seen his takedown defense improve and all those kinds of things, but Pantoja was the best grappler that Van had fought, and right behind Pantoja is Tatsuro Taira. So no matter what, we got some bangers on deck in the flyweight division, and these are some fights that I was actually nervous for in the flyweight division, man. I feel like this is one of the first times in a while that I've actually been like really excited about the flyweight division, man. We got some big names in this weight class, guys that are at least gaining steam for themselves, some really, really good young prospects that are getting thrown in with the OGs, and they're hanging, man, and they're winning. So, amazing performance by Tatsuro Taira, man, especially bouncing back after the first round, going out there doing what he did. He did his job, man. Put Brandon Moreno in a bad position, got the stoppage. Incredible stuff from Tatsuro Taira. In my opinion, he has absolutely earned a title shot, man. And unfortunately, not a lot of clarity with what happened in the co-main event, but I think Tatsuro Taira is right there, and I think they'll probably do Van versus Taira in the meantime while Pantoja recovers, depending on the severity. All right, Henry Cejudo versus Payton Talbott. Payton Talbott is an absolute savage, man. This kid is the real deal. He really is the real deal. When you're taking down Henry Cejudo, I mean, and listen, people are going to say, well, Henry Cejudo's a little older and, he just retired, right? This was his retirement fight. Henry Cejudo came to scrap, man. Henry Cejudo, when you talk about older guys that come back and usually in the retirement fight, they go out there, they get the shit kicked out of them. Then they go, thank you so much. And they play a tribute for you on the thing like Anthony Smith, where you get your ass beat, right? And you're in a pool of your own blood, and it's just a horrible way to go out. Henry Cejudo said, hell no, not me, dog. I'm going to go out there with this young, dangerous guy. I'm going to eat big shots on the feet. I'm going to throw down in the final 10 seconds, accept the point down, and dog it out, man. Henry Cejudo did clearly lose this fight, and he got outstruck, and he got beat up, but he was throwing some heat in there, man. He was throwing big shots. He was getting some takedowns. Like, Henry Cejudo came to scrap. And in my opinion, if you're not going to go out on top with a win and go into retirement like that, that's how you go out. And I know people that they don't really like Henry Cejudo. They think he's cringe, whatever. I feel like it's kind of a gimmick, right? To kind of, instead of Henry being this big trash talk guy, just kind of cringe, right? That was kind of his shtick. But at the end of the day, Henry Cejudo is one of the greatest combat athletes, I feel like, of all time, man. I mean, double champion in the UFC, has a win over Demetrius Johnson, right? Beating Dominic Cruz the way he did, TJ Dillashaw, Marlon Moraes. Right, I know it hasn't been the greatest, at bantamweight, especially, the biggest mistake of his career was retiring the way he did and going away and then coming. It just was a disaster. Big fumble by Henry Cejudo. And I think he regrets that. I think he was mentioning that this fight week. But at the end of the day, I mean, Henry Cejudo, man, what he's accomplished in the sport, he's a Hall of Famer, 100%, right? Henry Cejudo, one of my favorite fighters of all time as well. Love everything that he's done. And a guy that a lot of people are looking at as this amazing MMA grappler. And while he's got great wrestling, he's really not that great of an MMA grappler. He's more of a striker. He was throwing some serious heat. He was landing some good shots against Talbott. And Cejudo fought a great fight against Song until the eye poke, right? He was hanging in there. Against Aljamain Sterling, very close fight when he came back, right? Again, against Merab, it's Merab, but he stung Merab, remember, with a left hook. So Henry Cejudo, while he's older, he fought tooth and nail until the end, man. So thank you for everything that Henry Cejudo has done for the sport, man. The guy's got great fight IQ. I'm a Henry Cejudo fan, man. So for him to go out there and do what he did, I think that it is very impressive to go out like that, man, instead of just getting destroyed. And look, there was opportunities for Henry Cejudo to look for a way out in that fight because Payton Talbott was putting the work on him, man, landing big shots on the feet, sticking and moving, ripping to the body, knees upstairs. I mean, I thought Henry Cejudo was going to get cooked with the body shots and we were going to get a stoppage. And Henry Cejudo said, hell no, I'm going to try to will my way into this fight and try to make something happen. And he did, man. This was an amazing fight. Amazing fight. I think Dana said he was going to give Cejudo a bonus, which 100%, man. This was an amazing fight. Amazing fight, and how legit is Payton Talbott, man? The night belongs to Payton Talbott, man. Because for him to go out there and do what he did against a guy like Henry Cejudo, wildly impressive. And Payton Talbott, he's clearly made the necessary adjustments. And I said before, and people were kind of, getting after me for this, I said that in terms of MMA grappling, I think that Ronnie Barcelos, he might be better than Cejudo. Right? I think Cejudo, stylistically, I think he could beat Ronnie Barcelos because of the striking. But if it was just straight MMA grappling, Barcelos is really good. He's really, really good. And ever since that fight for Talbott, where I feel like Payton Talbott was buying into the hype, overlooked Barcelos, an older guy, right? I mean, to go out there and make the adjustments as quick as he has as a young fighter, it is wildly impressive. To do what he did to Lima and then go out here and out-grapple Cejudo in moments and take him down and get the inside trip and all this, it was wildly impressive, man. So thank you for everything that Henry Cejudo has done, man. Amazing career, even though I think the mistake of, retiring, coming back, it just didn't go so well. We can't take away the accomplishments that Henry Cejudo has accomplished in the sport, man. And for Payton Talbott to go out there, and these are the kind of bookings you get. If you're going to retire and walk away, the UFC is usually going to throw you in there against a young gun. And for Cejudo to go toe-to-toe with him like that and, throw down, it was wildly impressive. But make no mistake about it, Payton Talbott is for real, man. He absolutely is for real. I picked him to win by a decision for basically what we saw. The speed, the athleticism, the size, the physicality, and we're seeing a blueprint from the UFC, which we'll discuss a little more on this, man. Taking these young guys that are big, powerful, explosive strikers and putting them in there against the guys that are a little smaller than them, that even though Cejudo's more of a striker that have that grappling, it just seems like the UFC kind of has a little blueprint that they're working off of to get some of these young guys wins. So it was impressive what Cejudo did, but at the end of the day, Payton Talbott was putting the work on him, man. The boxing, the speed, the timing, and Talbott was getting a little loose with the defense, a little loosey-goosey, man. We've got to be careful of that moving forward, especially in this division, right, with some of the guys like Petr Yan, Sean O'Malley, Umar, right, some of the strikers we got at the top of the weight class. But Payton Talbott's for real, man. He's skilled, he's fast, he's sharp. His timing, his rhythm, his speed, and his improved grappling. Man, is Payton Talbott good, man. Odd dude, for sure. But for him to go out there and beat up on Henry Cejudo, we've never seen that. We've never seen that. We have not seen that whatsoever. We've seen Cejudo lose fights, but not like this, man. That was crazy from Payton Talbott to go out there and basically beat him from pillar to post. Even though Cejudo was in there and he was, slugging and, doing better than what a lot of people, I think, expected. Make no mistake about it. That was a savage, dominant win by Payton Talbott where he got to show his skills on a pay-per-view, main card, against a big name like Henry Cejudo for his last fight. Very impressive from Payton Talbott. I think he's definitely going to get a top guy next, man. So maybe they give him, maybe a Mario Bautista. Maybe I don't know what they do now, given where the division is. So they're obviously giving Payton Talbott the fast track kind of, ordeal here. They're going to give him a big fight next for 100 for sure, man. They're marketing Payton Talbott. They're pushing him. It's kind of got that O'Malley effect, the striker, the range, the size, all that kind of stuff. They're clearly pushing Payton Talbott, and you can say what you want about the guy. The guy can fight, man. He's got amazing striking. He's fun to watch. Huge win for Payton Talbott, man. Jan Blachowicz, my good friend, against Bogdan Guskov, man. You talk about probably the weirdest 4 fights in a row in the history of the UFC. That is what Jan Blachowicz is on right now. The weirdest 4-fight, I guess you could say, streak ever. Draw with Jan Blachowicz for I think it was the vacant title. Then he loses a split decision to Poatan Pineda, where he arguably could have won the fight. Even though I scored it for Poatan, it was really close. Goes out there against Carlos Ulberg. I thought he won the fight, and it was a really close decision against Ulberg. And then he goes out there and a draw. Jan Blachowicz just can't escape the toss-ups, just the nail-biters. I thought Jan Blachowicz looked really good in this fight. Guys, you got to remember, this dude's damn near 43 years of age. And I've said time and time again that Jan Blachowicz, he could literally fight like this until he's 100. He just moseys on forward, walks forward, doesn't require a lot of speed, a lot of fast twitch. Just everything it just hurts from Jan Blachowicz. But I have noticed a little bit of a speed, right? He was never a super fast guy, but I have noticed the speed has drawn back a little bit. And right in the second round, Jan made a mistake, right? He was backing up out of range, standing up straight in the air, kind of dropping his hands where he got sniped with a beautiful straight right hand by Bogdan Guskov down the middle. But if that doesn't happen, I think Jan ends up winning this fight. Right, and it was a 10-8 second round, which I think is maybe a little bit arguable. I did think in real time that it was probably going to end up being a 10-8, but Jan Blachowicz it's not like, he was getting dominated on the ground. Guskov rocked him and dropped him, was beating him up with nasty ground and pound, but Jan was threatening with, a heel hook off the ground. It's not like Jan wasn't doing anything. Right, but at the end of the day, it was still very dominant by Guskov, so I definitely see the 10-8 there, and in real time, that's how I looked at it. And then, yes, I figured that this was going to be a draw because I had Jan winning round 1. He's moving forward, landing the jab, landing the leg kicks, and in round 3, damn near knocked out Guskov. Give me 15 more seconds or 10 seconds left, and Jan Blachowicz gets a stoppage, I think. I love Jan Blachowicz, man. Good friend of mine, man. I was in the training camp for this fight. You know what I'm saying? And for him to go out there and a draw, it's just like Jan just can't get a win. They just get... The MMA gods, man, are cruel to Jan Blachowicz, man. And I think the next time Jan Blachowicz fights, they're going to read the decision. We're going to be like, Jan Blachowicz won this decision, and the power's going to go out in the arena. The mics are going to get cut, and we're just never going to know what happened. We're never going to know the result. It's just crazy, man. The way that these fights are playing out for Jan Blachowicz, the bottom line is they are all competitive. And for Jan to be this old, going in there toe-to-toe and hanging with these, dangerous. Poatan's knocking everybody out. Ulberg is styling on guys and starching a Dominic Reyes the way he did and is in the title conversation. And Bogdan Guskov brutally KOing guys, submitting guys, and then going out there and starching Nikita Krylov with one punch. And Jan Blachowicz eats a right hand from this guy and basically outscores him the whole fight outside of, getting knocked down, beaten up on the ground. Jan Blachowicz fought a good fight. And if you fight that slow, methodical, not high-paced fight where we're jabbing and leg kicking, Jan can hang with anybody, man. And he's very hard to hit clean. And I feel like if Jan, his mistake was sitting on the back foot and standing straight up in the air with the defense and dropping his hands. If he doesn't do that in round 2, I don't think he gets dropped. And Guskov's fast, man. He's got, he's definitely the faster fighter, the youth on his side, the speed, the power. Guskov is for real, man. So, cool, because I don't pick against these guys really, man. And, I do pick against them, but they're guys I root for at least. Right, but at the end of the day, to see both, to go to a draw, Not the worst thing because I like both guys, but I wanted Yan to get the win, man. If there was ever a time to brutally rob somebody of getting a 10-8 round, this was the time, man. They should have brutally robbed Guskov of that 10-8, man, because Yan Blachowicz would have gotten the win. So I wanted Yan to get the win. I feel bad for the guy because every time these fights are just so damn close and arguably he could win them. So absolutely nuts, man. Crazy performance by Yan Blachowicz. Guskov's good, man. I figured that he was going to struggle in this fight because of Yan Blachowicz, right? And I feel like if Yan would have stayed on the front foot the whole fight, I feel like he could have convincingly won, man, because it was when he was on the back foot where he was struggling. The leg kicks were damaging Guskov. The jab was money. You know, he's starting to kind of blitz in and land the right hand. Yan fought good, man. He did. He's definitely slowed down a little bit for sure, so I am a little bit worried depending on the matchups he gets moving forward. But, dude, he's still hanging with the most dangerous guys in this weight class. It's impressive. You put these guys in there with these other fighters, they're knocking them all out, and you put them in there with Yan, and Yan just goes toe-to-toe with them. It's so impressive, man. So, I mean, crazy that it ended in a draw. I figured it was coming given the way the second round played out, but shout out to Yan Blachowicz, man. Good friend of mine, right? Damn near 43 years of age, going out there, taking these young, dangerous guys to, decisions. Wild stuff, man, from one of my favorite light heavyweights of all time, Yan Blachowicz. Guskov will be back, man. I mean, both of these guys, I'm excited. Maybe they even do the rematch. I wouldn't hate a rematch, honestly. The way the light heavyweight division is, we kind of got all these matchups, and I wouldn't mind a rematch. Why not run it back? Run it back in 2026, man. I'd like to see that mid-2026, whatever. I'd love to see a rematch, honestly. So, great fight. I really enjoyed it. It was very competitive. Run this one back, man. Grant Dawson, Manuel Torres. I picked Torres by a first-round KO for what we just saw, and this is what I was just mentioning to you about the Payton Talbott thing. I looked at this fight and described it as Michael Morales versus Sean Brady 2.0. Now, not because that Grant Dawson is Brady or Torres is, Morales. Stylistically, the way that it matched up, right? You had the grappler who had all the skills to cause problems for the big, explosive, taller athlete across from them with the knockout power, to where that was Brady and Dawson in the matchups, to where Torres is much bigger. Morales was much bigger than Brady, even though Brady's, short but very stout. You get the point that I'm trying to make. It feels like the UFC has figured out a blueprint to get rid of those grapplers, man. They bring these big, explosive, younger, fast twitch guys, and they put them in front of these grapplers, and these guys just can't close the distance. The range management is just a problem. And that's what we're seeing, and I figured what we saw was what was going to happen. Dawson throwing, sloppy, strikes on the feet, right outside of something, clipping Torres, right? I felt like it was a long shot, man. It was basically Dawson going to have to get through the first round, get to his takedowns, and he tried, I think, for 2 takedowns and failed both. Torres looks dangerous, man. And what I love about Manuel Torres is a guy that I've been very high on, and outside of getting knocked out by Ignacio Bahamondes, where he got Ooga Booga, right, throwing these big, wild punches, ever since then, he's tightened up the technique. He's gotten back to throwing very good straight punches down the middle, and it has just really behooved him, man, because he's going out there and starching guys in the first round. And he's got so many first-round finishes. And to go out there and do that to Grant Dawson, wildly impressive. Wildly impressive, man. He kind of switched stances through that little shovel uppercut in the pocket, man. It was nasty. Knocking out Grant Dawson, who's a very, very good fighter. Great fighter. Some of the best grappling, I think, in this weight class. Very underrated is Grant Dawson, man. This is a tricky style matchup, especially if it goes past the first round, especially if Grant Dawson was able to get the fight to the floor. But I figured the physicality, the speed, the ferociousness of Torres was going to be enough to get the job done. This, to me, was Brady versus Morales 2.0. That's exactly how it played out. Incredible performance by Manuel Torres. Definitely getting a top guy next, I think. Top 10 at least. Terrence McKinney, Chris Duncan. I mean, guys, we knew what this fight was. I told you the most shocking thing to me on the night would be if this fight went the distance, right? When you get Chris Duncan and Terrence McKinney locked in the octagon, we know what time it is. It's going to be batshit nuts, and it was. Terrence McKinney almost knocks out Chris Duncan. He's got him on wobbly legs. I'm like, McKinney's getting a knockout. Then Duncan lands a shot. Then McKinney's on wobbly legs. He's out of it. And then Duncan ends up getting the submission. I think it was an anaconda, right? Darts or anaconda, I can't remember. But at the end of the day, nasty stuff by Chris Duncan. But Chris Duncan eventually, as he climbs the rankings, as fun as he is, he's going to pay for that, man, because he's eating some big shots from some of these guys. And Terrence McKinney never changed, man. This guy is so fun to watch, dude. So fun to watch. You know that the first round, it's basically kill or be killed. The fights don't go out of the first round, really. Either McKinney's getting the finish or he's getting finished. Super impressive stuff. Super entertaining fighter. I like both of these guys, man. I knew that this was going to be an absolute war. And look, Duncan's durable as hell, man. Ate some big shots, was able to survive, which I figured he was going to have to do in order to win this fight. And then for him to go out there, sting Terrence McKinney with a right hand, landed some, decent shots on the ground. And I thought it was a mistake. I thought Duncan should have postured up and started raining down the bigger shots, which, DC was mentioning on the broadcast. But either way, locking in the submission, getting McKinney out of there, wildly impressive stuff from Chris Duncan, man. We all knew what time it was when the UFC booked this fight. Absolute banger. Maycee Barber, Karine Silva. I mean, Karine Silva was cheating multiple times in this fight. That up kick, a point should have been deducted. I don't know what the referee was doing in this fight. I can't remember who the ref was. Maybe it was Mark Smith once again. Rough night of reffing from Mark Smith. But I picked Maycee Barber to win this fight based on activity, more well-rounded, better striking. That's basically what we saw in this fight, man. So Maycee Barber, she'll get a top opponent next. She's someone the UFC, I think, is really definitely looking to push. And Maycee Barber's on, I think, a pretty crazy win streak, right? Had the health scare, right? The main event, got scrapped right before it was supposed to happen. And to see her bounce back strong like that, I was a little bit worried about where the health is at and all those kinds of things. She looked great, man. She looked great. Karine Silva's a very game opponent to go out there and do that. Very impressive stuff from Maycee Barber. Nazim Sadykhov for SCM. Listen, man, this fight, these are two guys I don't pick against. And look, for SCM, going out there, I don't know if I'm picking against for SCM ever, man. Like, this guy, he's sensational, man. He's getting better every single fight. This was a one-sided beatdown. Dominant. Mixed martial arts masterclass by for SCM. Out-grappled a very good grappler in Nazim Sadykhov. Outstruck and outscored a very good striker in Nazim Sadykhov with nasty boxing, nasty power, and this fight wasn't remotely close. For SCM, dominated him on the floor, dominated him in the clinch, dominated him at range, dominated him in close, and then those were elbows from hell, man. Nasty, raining down elbows from for SCM, man, to get the stoppage. Brutal KO, and it's kind of a weird stoppage because it was basically right after the horn went off, but at the end of the day, we didn't need to see that fight continue anymore, man. Nasty shots from for SCM, and in my opinion, this guy has definitely earned a top 10 opponent, or a top guy at least, right? And I know people are going to say, you could make the argument that Ziam's resume, I mean, it kind of almost is better than a guy like Paddy Pimblett, right? But at the end of the day, we know the UFC's not going to push Ziam the same way as a Paddy Pimblett, so being realistic, I think for SCM should get a guy like Renato Moicano, right? I think Moicano's ranked like number 10, something like that. I think for SCM, tags his ass up, gets a big win. For SCM, to me, has earned a top 10 guy for sure. Not just a ranked guy, a top 10 guy, for sure. And I think right now, the skills that we're seeing, he's 1,000% a top 10 lightweight in the world. 100%, man. His striking is clean, crisp on the feet, super hard to get in on, the range. And now that his grappling, which once seemed to be maybe a little bit of an issue, to go out there and plug the holes as quickly as he has, man, for SCM is looking like a real problem. I've been very high on both of these guys, man. I wasn't sure how CM was going to deal with kind of the pressure and the grittiness of Sadykhov. Boy, did he have all the answers, man. Absolutely dominant performance from for SCM in this fight, man. Wildly impressive. Marvin Vettori, Bruno Ferriera. I mean, listen, I predicted Bruno Ferriera to win this fight, but I got to be honest, man. I thought a prime Marvin Vettori could win that fight. Marvin Vettori, to me, this was more about Marvin Vettori is very much a shell of himself and he should retire. And I know that Bruno Ferreira is dangerous. He's powerful and he missed weight like a fat ass and all that kind of stuff. But Marvin Vettori doesn't have it anymore, in my opinion. From my perspective and what we've seen, I don't think Marvin Vettori has it anymore. He's not the same guy. Doesn't march forward the same way. Doesn't open up the same way. He's flat-footed. He's not digging in on his shots. I know Marvin Vettori hasn't been a world beater, but he's been better than what we saw in the octagon last night at least. And Bruno Ferreira, he's powerful, was landing big shots, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, Marvin Vettori was peppering him up, right? And Marvin could have opened up a little bit more and marched Bruno Ferreira down and put a pace on him. I mean, Bruno Ferreira's got a suspect gas tank. A suspect gas tank, man. And I feel like Marvin Vettori, this was very winnable for him, man. So I picked Bruno to win the fight by a decision, right? I didn't think he was going to knock out Vettori. You know, Marvin Vettori is one of the most durable fighters ever, maybe the most durable. Got, a fire hydrant for a head. Baseball bats fear Marvin Vettori because of how durable he is. I was more disappointed in kind of the shell of Marvin Vettori that we're seeing than impressed with what we saw from Bruno Ferreira. Still impressive, right? A win over Marvin Vettori, a ranked guy, a guy that's been at the top of the weight class, has been a ranked up guy for, forever. It's a great win for Bruno, but I don't know, man. It was more to me of the fact that Marvin clearly is a shell of himself. I feel like he should retire, man. I feel like he should retire. Doesn't look like the same guy, man. Am I the only one that feels that way? I mean, let me know what you guys think, but I felt like it was a shell of Marvin Vettori. Still impressive, right? Bruno Ferreira, big power, gets a little bit too wild, right? I like the way that he was, attacking the single leg, right? Just to open up, feint the level changes, open up the striking, big power, over swings on some shots. Bruno Ferreira is going to get knocked out as he starts to move up the ranks of the middleweight division with some of the sloppy technique on the feet. But there's no question. I mean, he's knocked out RoboCop. He's got a nasty sub game as well. Bruno Ferreira is dangerous, no question. But, man, it's just kind of hard for me to kind of get a really good read considering that just was a complete shell of Marvin Vettori, man. So hard to watch seeing some of these guys because Marvin Vettori's young. But, again, in terms of the fight years and the mileage on him, tough watch, man. Again, impressive from Bruno Ferreira beating a guy like Vettori, but pretty clear to me that Marvin is not the same guy whatsoever, man. Edson Barboza, Jalin Turner. I expected Jalin Turner to get a KO and back in a great way, man. Jalin Turner, he shouldn't have retired. I mean, I'm glad he took some time away, right? I feel like it was more, let me take some time away, get my bearings, get myself together here. Edson Barboza is washed. We saw that in this past couple fights, especially in the Jakar close fight. And look, Jalin Turner, I've always said, I believe, is a top 10 talent in this weight class. It's always been about the mindset. He's had some close fights with some really good guys in this weight class, and he's massive for the division, super tall, rangy, sniper-like striking, and his ground game is actually really good. You saw on the floor for the, some of the scrambles that we were seeing, Jalin Turner's good on the ground, man. Like, people forget, man, Jalin Turner's got a nasty sub game. It just, to me, has always been a mindset thing with Jalin Turner, where sometimes it seems like he's doubting himself, a little bit unsure of what's going on in there, but when he is confident and locked in, which we clearly saw in this fight, that is what Jalin Turner is capable of, man. Going out there, obviously it is not a prime Barboza whatsoever, even though he's always ripped and shredded and in great shape. That is not the same Edson, make no mistake about it. Hard to see an OG and a legend like Barboza get finished like that. I just knew it was coming, man. Turner still got a lot of tread left on the tires. He's sharp. He's nasty on the feet, man. I think Jalin Turner's a top 10 lightweight, man. I've been saying that for forever. Or maybe even do Ferriera Ziam versus a Jalin Turner. I'm just thinking about that right now. Maybe Ferriera Ziam versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I don't know. I like Jalin Turner, man. I know Bahamondes, actually, he just beat Turner. Forgot about that. He's got subbed by Bahamondes, right? Weird stuff from Turner, man. Weird stuff from Turner. So impressive win. Happy to see him come back and get. And I feel like this matchup spoke volumes to what the UFC thinks of Turner. They still got a lot of faith in him. Giving him an older guy that's just going to stand and bang with him on the feet. This was a very good matchup for Jalin Turner. Went out there, did what he was supposed to, got an easy KO over a legend and dangerous kicker in Edson Barboza. Hard to see Barboza, get finished like that, but happy for a guy like Jalin Turner, who I'm a big fan of. Iwo versus Ebo lived up to the hype, man. This is, guys, when I talk about Ooga Booga, man, forgetting the technique, throwing the big wild shots. That's what this was, man. Ooga Booga MMA on display. This was the perfect example, man. Batshit crazy while it lasted, and I thought that Iwo was going to get knocked out, and I'm like, dude, just cover up. Just shell up, roll with the shots, and then sting him with a straight shot down the middle, and I felt like he could have gotten an easy KO. Because if you play that brawl fight where you're getting Ooga Booga, wild slingshots, man, hip firing, forgetting the technique, throwing these big winging shots, that is the perfect time to just shell up, wait, get technical, and snipe some guy right down the middle. And, either way, it was wildly entertaining. That was one of the craziest, basically, I think that's what it says here, minute and a half that we've ever seen for a fight, man. It was absolutely crazy. So, Iwo beats Ebo. That was chaos, man. Absolute chaos. Great fight by both guys. And again, Ebo seems like he tries to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more methodical. But if he clips you with a shot, he goes back to his roots of getting real wild, being King Ooga Booga, forgetting the technique, man, and throwing those big wild, these big old shots. And then he just leaves himself wide open to being knocked the hell out. Great stuff from Iwo Baranuski. Great job by both guys, man. That was wildly entertaining. Everyone enjoyed that fight. So amazing performance for both guys. Not the most technical, obviously, but in terms of entertainment, craziness, man. Big win for Iwo Baranuski in his debut. Mansour Abdul Malik, I expected him to run through Antonio Tricoli. This was a layup for Mansour, but Mansour is as good as advertised, man. He absolutely is, because I thought he was going to get a KO in this fight, but to go out there and punk a big, tall guy like Tricoli on the ground and basically get like a standing guillotine like that, wildly impressive. And wrestling back into guys nowadays, man, is so dangerous in the sport of MMA, man. And I know that Mansour wrestled at the University of Maryland, and he's got a crazy wrestling background, very, very good, very physically strong, ran him over with a nasty double leg, good power on the feet, explosive. Seeing the submission wrinkle in from Mansour is very encouraging, man. I love Mansour Abdul Malik, man. Very humble, very, very hard worker, right? And I watched this guy at Shogun Fights, man, on the regional scene. This guy's for real, man. He's ferocious. I like how the UFC's kind of slow building him here, going out there, running over Tricoli like that. I knew as soon as Antonio kind of wrestled back into Mansour, it was going to be a massive mistake, man. Great performance by Mansour going out there and running over Antonio Trocoli the way that he did. And remember, people forget, man, Sharmagomedov, it took him, basically, until round 3 to get Trocoli out of there. So I know styles make fights, but seeing Mansour do it in round 1, very impressive. And again, Trocoli's not UFC caliber, so still impressive from Mansour. Last but not least, Myron Santos versus Muhammad Naimov. I thought that Santos would go out there and win this by a decision, and to see him go out there and get a KO, wildly impressive. And I think he's training with the Fighting Nerds now, made some adjustments in his camp, and with Santos only 25, I mean, this kid's future is bright, man. And I said before, I wasn't super sold on Myron Santos. I'd been picking him to win these fights, but I hadn't been like, right, with some of the performances. I mean, I felt that a little bit in the Sadiq Youssef fight, but the Francis Marshall fight, underwhelming. Right, but this fight here, I mean, Muhammad Naimov he's durable, man. He's a tough guy to finish, and he's very skilled. Why he's not the most, dangerous guy? He was throwing some flashy kicks in there. Naimov's physically strong, well-rounded. He's a test. He's a test for a young guy like Santos, right? And Santos started to get the timing, man, or started snapping those snap kicks, those calf kicks out there, attacking the lead leg of Naimov, beating him up to the body a little bit, getting the jab going, and then once he found a home for that, and that's why I preach the technique, man. Beautiful straight right hand right down the middle, right on the button of Naimov. Even though Myron missed weight like a fat-ass man, this guy's a problem. He's got a nice frame for the weight class. He's strong. He's got good cardio. Seems like the takedown defense has improved because Naimov was clinching with him, trying to get the fight to the floor. Santos' takedown defense is getting better and on the feet. This guy seems like he can hang with a lot of guys, man. His Muay Thai's nasty, the leg kicks, the range, the power in his hands. It was good to see Myron Santos go out there and get a finish. I feel like that's kind of what he had been missing so far since he's been in the UFC. I know he finished up Ofli on, I think, what was that, on Tough or whatever. So Myron Santos is impressive. He's young. He's developing. He's getting better and better. I like seeing young guys that improve from fight to fight, like Myron Santos going out there. That's a statement win to knock out a guy like Muhammad Naimov. Last numbered event of the ESPN era, man. Really enjoyed this card. Like I said, it was a roller coaster. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Do me a favor. Give it a like. Let me know what you think below. And if you are new, if you could sub to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. See you next time.